to the heat. I'm telling you, today I'm excited. I feel the heat. We had a lady that came up to the office today who had been battling depression. For 2 years, she felt like there was a wall, a steel door between her and God. She saw one of our telecasts on TV. She came to the office. Our staff prayed for her. And today, at our 30-12, our 12 o'clock prayer meeting that we're making available across the nation, she showed up and this is what she said. She said, "Today I just left my counselor and I fired him." She said, "I'll never go back. And the reason I'll never go back is because God healed me." She said, all the brokenness, and you have to understand, she'd spent days on end, couldn't get out of the house. She had spent days in complete and utter depression. And when she came to our office initially, she was devastated. We asked God to heal her, and that's exactly what God did. And her husband stood in the hallway and he said, "I got my wife back." He stuck his fist in the air and he said, "She's a changed woman." He said, "When we walked out of your office building, God had already healed her mind." Let me ask you today, are you broken? Is there devastation and pain and hurt that's ravaging your life, your peace? Today we're shooting a video from a vacated stairwell. You probably recognize the echo that we can't do anything about. I look at the paint that's peeling off the wall. I look at the dirt underneath my feet. I can't help but think that today there are people who feel isolated. They feel broken. I want to tell you that God has a plan in your brokenness. I've just been reading 1 and 2 Samuel about the life of David. You see where here's a guy that had a heart for God, and yet he was underneath the leadership of a crooked king by the name of Saul. Saul at one time took a spear and threw it at David and tried to kill him. David spent literally several years on the run, behind every bush, every corner, wondering if Saul was going to be there. It must have been a very difficult time for David, wondering what is going on. Why is God allowing this to happen to me? Why would God allow a man like King Saul, who, by the way, once had a hot heart for God, who had over time allowed jealousy and anger and bitterness to invade his life and cause him to lose his intimacy with God? I'm sure David wondered, why would he be put underneath an individual like that? But see, sometimes God allows a King Saul to come in your life or mine so that we don't become like them. Sometimes God brings the King Saul in your life or mine to kill the King Saul in us. Now, you may not be familiar with the story of King Saul and David. King Saul was the first king of Israel. And obviously David is the one who defeated Goliath. And it's an incredible story that I hope you'll read. But the essence of the story is that the parallels are that some of us are underneath the King Saul right now. Like David, one day in a banquet hall, Saul took a spear and threw it at David and tried to kill him. I believe there's people that are watching this video devotional and that's where you're at. Spears are coming from every direction. Why does God allow this? Why such brokenness? My mother once told me, "Jay, God can never fully use a man until he's first fully broken him." From Genesis to Revelation, every great man of God that's ever been used went through a time of brokenness. Are you willing to embrace it? Are you willing to accept that maybe God is trying to do some spiritual surgery in your life and to take some things out of your life that are keeping you from knowing Him the way you should? My experience has been that everything that God has ever taken, He's replaced with something greater. I think about a relationship I had years ago that when it ended, it destroyed me. But I look at what God has given instead. What a gift. I regret to say that sometimes when spears are thrown at me, I throw them back. Not David. David trusted the outcome to God. David did not allow the hatred of someone else, the hurt that someone else inflicted on him, to make him bitter. I wish I could tell you literally the thousands of people I've met all over the United States and across the world who've been eaten up like cancer with bitterness and hatred. Maybe they were innocent. Maybe they didn't deserve it. Maybe things happened to them that seemed unfair. God speaks through the megaphone of pain. Maybe next time when someone throws a spear at you, maybe today as you're in an isolated place, it's very cold where we're at, there's very little light. Maybe you're in a place like this. Will you be willing to say to God, God, don't bail me out until you change me? God, don't bail me out until you've made my heart right with you. God has an incredible way of getting our attention. And I don't believe that every pain that comes in our life is because God's trying to inflict some type of harm upon us. No. But God does allow things. God permits certain things. What do we do? How do we react? I look at what God allowed His own Son, Jesus Christ, to go through. The beating and the torture on the cross. But yet through that torture, through that beating, came our salvation. Are you hurting today? Will you turn to Christ? When others hurt you, will you throw a spear? Will you be willing to allow God to transform you through the difficulty? I hope you will. God can heal you. Heal you from the pain, the resentment, the regret. He wants a relationship with you today. I hope you'll get a chance to read 1st and 2nd Samuel, my favorite books in the entire New Testament. Incredible books. You can learn so much from lives of David and Saul. And of course, I think about the prophet Nathan and the prophet Samuel. God has really spoke to me these last few days and said, Jay, there's some things I want you to evaluate. I look at my own life and I've seen some things that God has told me, Jay, you really need to change. Regrettably, I see a lot of King Saul in my own life. And I want more of David, and I know you do too. Well, I'm glad you joined us today for the video devotional. I hope that you've been blessed by it. I hope you'll share it with someone else that you know. So many hurting people. I hope that you'll pray God continues to give us opportunities to share the gospel. Just last Friday, a lady from Phoenix, Arizona saw one of our telecasts on JCTV, heard me talk about suicide, and called our office, and our staff led her to Christ. It amazes me. This is a classic case of brokenness. Satan came against me and told me there's no reason to live. I was going to end my life, and yet God has used my brokenness as a platform to enable me to relate and connect to other people. When that lady heard me talk about being in despair, when that lady heard me talk about not wanting to live, that's where she was. I truly believe that Satan had no idea that the day he came against me, that would actually lead to other people coming to know Christ. That's what God wants to do with your trial today, your pain today. He wants to use it to give you a platform. A platform not that gives you recognition or applause, but a platform that draws other people to His Son. God bless you. We look forward to seeing you next week. Endure the pain. Endure the suffering. Allow the brokenness to draw you near Christ. We'll see you soon. Blessings.